And we're back. Hello, everyone. This is Irfan Nasrullah, the Select Board Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Amy Ritterbush?
Amy Ritterbush here.
Brendan Tedstone?
Headstone here.
Mary Jo Lafreniere? Are you muted? Muriel Kramer?
Muriel Kramer here.
And I don't see her. Okay, well, anyways, we have a quorum, so we can keep going. Anticipated speakers on the agenda. Please respond in the affirmative if you are here. Phil Powers? Chris Stevenson?
Here.
Courtney Lucier?
Courtney Lucier here.
And John Ayada? The following department heads will be present later, and I won't call on them now. So for this meeting, the Select Board is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Excuse me. Additionally, this meeting may also be broadcast by HCAM through one or many of its channels or platforms. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website via the web meeting calendar, unless otherwise posted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda, unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first agenda item. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will invite board members to provide comments, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in dialogue with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Excuse me. For items of public comment, after the members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of public commentators, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Before we begin, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item is the public forum. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak? If so, please use the raise hand feature of Zoom, and when called on, identify yourself by name and address first. Let's see. I do not see any raised hands.
Nope.
All right. So next item on our agenda is recognition for Officer Phil Powers. The board will recognize Officer Phil Powers, who's retiring with just over 34 years of experience, of service, sorry. Board members. Would you like to speak?
Sure.
I certainly would.
Is Officer Powers here?
Oh,
Through the chair, he is currently joining.
Okay, I see him there. He's muted and his video's off, so There he is.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, we're sad to see you leave.
Well, it's sad to leave, so
Yeah, well, I guess there's a time for everything.
yeah.
Board members? Go ahead, Muriel.
So, Phil, this is an amazing opportunity to say thank you, and thank you doesn't really come close to covering what needs to be said. You've served this community for a very long time in a very professional and compassionate and deeply present way. And we don't often talk about the ways that police officers, even in sleepy little towns like Hopkinton, answer really difficult calls. And I know that you have done that. And I know that you have seen families through those difficult times. And it's hard to capture in words what that means to people. You've been for a very long time keeping our kids engaged and safe, and setting a great example for them up at the school as a resource officer. And I just want to make sure that I say thank you. It's not enough, but we really appreciate the way you have served, your commitment to this community, and the ways that you have set a really fine example for all of us and for our kids. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Muriel. It's been a pleasure, really. It has been.
Mary Jo?
I I really can't remember, and I know I was in town a good number of years before Bill got on the force, but since then I've known him, and it's been a long time. And you have just been so wonderful to everybody. When we've been out in demonstrations and all kinds of things, you come, you talk to people, you talk to the public. We all know who you are. We all knew your name. And I know I had, being a single mother with two rambunctious young gentlemen, I had a lot to do with the police department from time to time. And you've been just wonderful, and you're great with the kids at the high school, and a real inspiration to us all. And we're going to miss you very, very much.
Well, I'm going to miss the work. I'm going to miss the job. I'm going to miss the people. I'm going to miss the kids, but I'm still going to be around. So I still live in town, so I will
Good to
be.
know. We'll be seeing you.
You will. Thank you so much.
If I could go next.
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. We really appreciate all your work over the years. I've had friends whose children have gone through difficult situations, and that you were very supportive, and you helped them through the processes they need to go through. And I know I often express concerns about the traffic of the kids walking to school on Grove Street and Hayden Row, and I really appreciate you listening and offering good suggestions for that. And you've been a very good, quiet neighbor, so I'm glad it sounds like you'll be staying there. So
I will be for now, anyways. But
so that'll be good.
continue on those ideas. Make sure they get done. Okay. So, thank you,
Mr. Tedstone.
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons that I really like being one of the selectmen, but it's also one of the reasons I don't like it. Phil has been a great friend of mine. I consider him a great friend of mine for as long as he's been in town. He's seen me in some, through some of my best times and some of the worst. And when I was on the fire department, I worked with him a lot. We did a lot of, we played a lot of softball together around the country, and we've had a lot of fun. Those stories will not be brought up today, Phil. Those stories will be brought up at another time. But
about surfing.
So one of the things that has always resonated with me is when I was just newly put on the fire department, we went to a car accident at the old Cumberland Farms, which is now that liquor store. And Phil was on duty. And this goes back to probably 1990, 89, 90. And Phil, who we all knew as the happy-go-lucky, fun-loving, if you didn't know him, you wouldn't know he was a cop. He had no bravado. He didn't carry his you know, he didn't walk with grapefruits under his arms like he was the biggest guy in the neighborhood. And it turned out that this accident, there was a pretty significant crime involved with it. And it was the first time I ever saw Phil go from friendly Phil to cop Phil. And I realized what it entails for that job, and how things can go from 0 to 60 in an unexpected drop of a hat. And that was long before all the social justice stuff that goes on these days. This was back when it was all real and true, and there was no political spin put to it. It was just real, and that solidified how I looked at Phil as a cop and as a person, and his innate ability to change from just being a buddy and a friend and a happy-go-lucky cop to kind of turning his hat backwards and really doing his job and doing it well. One of the first people I spoke to when I was elected as selectman was Phil. I saw him a day or so later, and he pulled me off to the side and congratulated me. And he gave me some words that really, whether you thought that they were impactful or not, Phil, they were. They really stuck with me. You shook my hand and you looked me in the eye, and I mean, you looked up at me, obviously, because you're tiny, but you looked me in the eye and said, "Don't let the job of being a selectman define you as a person." And it's something that you think about, and you know, maybe I didn't understand the full breadth of it at that point, but I certainly did, and I thought about it. And they were very profound words coming from a guy like you, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate you doing your job as well as you have. We have certainly butted heads on many issues throughout my career in Hopkinton as a firefighter and as a punk and as a selectman. I have in my life been issued one speeding ticket where I was held responsible, and that was by none other than Officer Phil Powers in my 1988 Volkswagen Jetta.
Never got another.
I'm not saying I never got another one. I just was responsible for it. But you are kind of what molded my perception of what the town is, Phil. And as far as public safety, and you did it well, you did it great, and you did it with tremendous pride. And you showed that it was all right to be a good guy, but when it was time to do your job, you did your job. So the stories I will have at a later time will be far more funny. This is a time that I am very sad to see you go. I consider you a great friend, and I'm proud to know you. And I wish you nothing but the happiest and healthiest retirement, buddy. Congratulations, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much, pal.
Thank you, Brendan. It means a lot. Appreciate it.
So, my first encounters with Officer Powers were really arguments with my daughter. And she was saying, "Oh, but OP said this. OP said I can do that. OP said it's allowed. That's fine." I'm like, who is this OP? Why is he getting in the way of how I parent my daughter? Well, turns out, finally met you and got to realize what a great guide you were for all our kids, and helping them through the many challenges that kids have in high school. It was invaluable, and I think you taught my children, at least, a valuable lesson that go to the police. They're there to help and provide guidance and help smooth things over. And trust in the police is a huge issue these days, and I think you've done such a great job of connecting with the students and really giving us reason to understand that you're there to help and guide them through the mishaps that go on, good and bad. There are good things where you're there to help, and you're definitely there to help clean up the mess when it's bad. So I do want to share a quick note from my daughter that she had asked me to say, which is just thank you for making a great impact on my school and everything you do to make it a safe environment. So Phil, you've had a huge impact on us. You've had a huge impact on the town. I'm really sad to see you leave, and but I'm just glad that we had the pleasure of having you on our town.
Thank you so much. And I've also learned so much from the kids too. So they've taught me a lot over these 22 years of being in the schools.
Yeah.
So
Through the chair, if I may, I believe it would be appropriate to ask Chief Bennett to say a few words. And if there's any other members of the fire, police department that want to say anything, hit that raise hand button.
Thank you, Mr. Tedstone. I think that's entirely appropriate. Ben, can you liven up Chief Bennett? Chief, you there?
I am. Phil, through the chair, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. When I came here, Phil was actually my training officer for a little while, and at a later date, I'll tell you some funny stories about even the first day that I got here, and he's carried that sense of humor with him.
that will definitely be off camera.
And I know you know what I'm talking about. So, you know, when I started this job, someone said to me, the most important thing that you can do is stay true to who you are. And through the chair, Phil, you have done that. You are the same person that I met a few years ago when I was in training, and your care, your empathy, you didn't let the job change you, and you wrote it out to this point we are today. And that is really the most that you can ask from someone when you ask them to do the things that we are asked to do. I could tell you so many gory stories of Phil and I in the middle of the night doing things, and so much that we've seen, but he didn't let it change him. He's still the man he was the day I met him. And his care for the community, his giving back to the community, his care for the members of the department, and always giving to them and being there for them. I can't think of a big enough word to describe his contribution. And through the chair, Phil, I wish you a long and healthy retirement, and I look forward to hunting around in the woods and rummaging around in the woods looking for my golf ball.
Thanks, Chief. I'll give you a hand because I'll probably be looking for mine too. So
Yeah, on the other side.
Yours will probably be a little bit before his Phil.
That's for sure.
And the wrong side.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
And I see that Mr. Malu has his hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Phil, Officer Powers, on behalf of our town employees, I want to thank you for your exceptional, fine, and distinguished service to this community. And you did it for 34 years. That's really remarkable. What I will always remember about Phil is the connection, the representation, and how deeply he was immersed in this community. In public service, we always want to put community first. And that's what Officer Powers demonstrated to all of us throughout the time that I've in fact spent with him, whether it was instances where Phil had to speak up, present his professional perspective, or we were deep in union negotiations, we always got the true side of Phil. And for that, Phil, we will miss you. And at the same time, though, we wish you a very healthy and fulfilling retirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words.
Okay, so thank you again, Officer Powers. You're going to be sorely missed. That's all I can say. But congratulations, and we do have one more person with a hand raised. Tim Brennan.
Oh, geez.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
Hi, Tim.
Gonna miss you in my roll call, Phil. My nose just grew a little.
Yeah, well,
Like
you can zoom me in for those if you'd like.
like Brendan, the only person ever pulled me over in Hopkins was Phil Powers before I started working here full time. It's going a little heavy footed up Senior Street. Phil, gonna miss you. Old school. Yeah, worked a lot of overtime. You really contributed and you helped out a lot of the young guys. Excuse me. I don't know if the younger guys are gonna log on and say that, but all these young guys that are in transition, you've been a voice for them and a springboard for them on ideas and problems and issues and complaints and concerns. And I don't know if you ever really knew how much value you added to the young officers' lives. And I know you're not going far. You'll still be around. And I will not bring you into my roll call, but I'm going to miss you seeing you every day. So good luck in retirement and enjoy it. And no dangerous calls this week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. I just got to say that, you know, these past 34 years have been great. If I were ever to do it over again, I'd do exactly the same. So no regrets. And I'm sorry I have to leave.
Well, Phil, one other thing I meant to bring up is the fact that you did your job so well is evident just based on what your son does for a living. You know, like you showed him what the high points are, what a wonderful career is, and now your son does that. And what's better than that is you lead not just the community by example, but your family by example. You don't do it 8 hours a day; you do it 24 hours a day, and your son follows in your footsteps. And it's something that you need to know that you need to hold your head really, really high for everything that you've done. You've done a great job.
Thank you. He didn't get my height though, that's for sure. He's like 6'2", so.
he got all of yours and then some.
Exactly.
Like a metric conversion. He went to imperial gallons.
I'm trying to get him into the school, so hopefully someday in Walpole he'll be an SRO.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's great. Well, congratulations, Phil. We're going to miss you, but enjoy the retirement. We'll see you around.
Thank you.
town.
Thank
You're
you.
much loved in town.
All right.
Yeah, you'll see me on Main Street probably for the next couple of years. So if you appoint me traffic constable. So. At a later date.
I'll be sure to go speeding by every time I see you.
Well, I won't be able to write a ticket. So.
Exactly.
But thank you, everybody. It's been a great ride.
Thank you.
Love you, buddy. Congrats.
Take care.
Take care.
All right, moving on. Consent agenda. The board will consider approving the consent agenda consisting of approval of the minutes of the select board meetings of January 11, 2022 and January 13, 2022, and accepting a gift, $1,000 gift from TSG Enterprises LLC to the Marathon Fund Committee in memory of Frederick L. Murphy. Board members, would any of you like to break out any items for a separate vote? Okay.
Just had a question if I could. It doesn't have to be voted separately.
Uh,
I understand the Marathon Fund Committee, I think, met, yesterday or last week. So we'll, at our next meeting, we'll vote on their recommendations. Is that right?
When they bring them to us.
Okay.
Okay.
I know I mentioned this at the last meeting, but Fred Murphy was a teacher and he was a great baseball player and had influence in the Little League. And he was on this Marathon Fund Committee for many years ago, and was just an all-around great Hopkinton gentleman. He was married to a girl from town, Judy, and well, he is going to be missed by many, and it's just so appropriate that we accept this gift in his name for the Marathon Fund Committee.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate hearing that context. Yeah, it's helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. The context is fantastic. So that with that, I request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. We take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush,
Amy Roderbush, yes.
Brendan Tedstone,
Headstone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere? You're muted.
I should just stay unmuted. I can't. Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Thank you. Muriel Kramer?
Muriel Kramer, yes.
Great. Okay. Next item on our agenda is the parade permit application for the Maspenock Mile Road Race. The select board will consider approving the parade permit for the Maspenock Mile Road Race, which will be held on Friday, May 27, 2022. It would start and end at Sandy Beach. Is there a representative is there a representative present to review the application? Chris Stevenson, you here?
Yes, I am. Thanks for having me.
All right. Want to tell us what this is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be short and sweet, but essentially it's just a 1 mile road race I'd love to have in our little lake community over here. It's really just a grassroots effort as of now, hoping to expect around 30 participants. And as you can see in the application, I've been in contact with the fire department and the police department to host this race. And like I said, it's going to be grassroots, pretty small for now. And basically, you know, not have any road closures as far as what we need now based on participation. And then also it's going to be a totally nonprofit event as well. So just looking to have an event just to kind of kick off summer and get some folks healthy and enjoy the lake.
Excellent. Ms. Lazarus, is there application papers all in order?
Yes, everything's all set.
Board members, any questions?
Oh, just applaud the initiative. It's a great idea. Awesome job.
Yeah, a mile is nothing for this town either, so it's great.
I think it's fantastic as well. My only question is, you know, if the participation increases, you have contingency plan for, you know, road closures if necessary, you know.
Yes, absolutely. Good question. And that'll just be getting recommendations from the police department and the fire department as well. As soon as we creep past anywhere near that 30 mark, then I'll be in contact with them and see what we need to do. And even if we need to limit the amount of participants to a certain amount, a number as well.
Okay.
I have one question. You're starting at Sandy Beach. Is Parks and Rec on board too?
I'm sorry?
You're
Parks and Rec.
Yeah, are they on board with you too?
They are in the middle of
Gotcha.
approving it. I was going to wait till after this meeting, but they are in whereabouts of it. And I also need to I just submit application for that yesterday for park use.
Okay.
And then one last item on my list is in the, you know, just a contingency plan in case there's public health guidance for COVID, that you will be following those guidelines, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Any other questions from the board? Okay, in that case, I request a motion to approve the parade permit application for the Maspenock Mile Road Race on May 27, 2022, subject to the Mass Department of Public Health COVID-19 guidance.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have motions been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush,
Ritterbush, yes.
Brenda Tedstone,
Headstone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere.
Lafreniere, yes.
Great, you're not muted. Muriel Kramer,
Muriel Kramer, yes.
and her fondness was a yes as well. Awesome. Go and conquer.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the event. Great idea for the summer, especially after the brutally cold days we just had. All right. So moving on to the next agenda item, street name approval. Turkey Ridge Estates subdivision. The board will consider approving street names for new roads in the Turkey Ridge subdivision, Turkey Ridge Estates subdivision, which is off Lincoln Street and Cedar Street Extension. One of the new roads would extend Lincoln Street, and this new section is proposed to be named Lincoln Street. The second new road is off Cedar Street Extension, and 4 possible names are provided: Sunrise Path, Emerald Walk, Honeybee Pass, and Cabo Way. Town staff have reviewed these names and have no adverse comments. Board members, do you have any preferences?
I did. I noticed that the original name application was Turkey Ridge Road, but the fire chief had expressed concern that that it not be named the same as the housing development. But I guess I really liked that name, and I thought since we don't allow signs at the beginning of housing developments with to express the name, I thought it might still be safe enough to call that road Turkey Ridge Road. But I would definitely defer to the fire department if they think that's unsafe. So my second choice would be Honeybee Pass, but I thought Turkey Ridge was very appropriate. There's a lot of turkeys in that area.
Well, a concern, speaking as someone that was on the fire department, is we already have a ridge road in town. So on a 911 call, it could be misconstrued that they're calling for Turkey Ridge versus just Ridge. And I know that in the past, they're cognizant of the similar names in town, similar street names, and that's why they get away from similar as a rule.
Yep, that's a fair point. I think there's a Fawn Ridge as well.
And there's also Falcon Ridge.
Okay.
So there's quite a few ridge roads in town.
All right, so we've eliminated Ridge from the naming.
So I saw that the applicant didn't have a preference. Is that still true, Courtney? Through you, Mr.
Yes,
Chair?
we're happy with whatever you guys feel is appropriate.
So I can't help but just throw in that I liked Honeybee Pass as well. So, but I'm open to anything.
Are there a lot of honeybees there?
Not that I know of, but that's okay.
On forward.
Well, since now we're having trouble with our bees, that maybe honeybee will attract some.
So personally, I like Cabo Way, just because I had a great time at Cabo San Lucas, but is there, Brendan Tedstone, do you have a preference?
Nope. I like Cabo. I like Van Halen.
All right, so we have 2 for Honeybee and 2 for Cabo. Mary Jo, you seem to be the deciding vote here.
Why don't we let Mary Jo make the motion, unless she's going with Sunrise or.
No, I make a motion that we call the street from the Turkey Ridge Estates to Honeybee Pass.
Yeah,
I would second.
We have a motion that's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Just wanted to, note that the other street needs to be named Lincoln Street as well, the extension.
Okay, can we add that to the motion?
And that we name the other street Lincoln Street. Isn't Lincoln Street Extension already there? Are we extending Lincoln Street Extension, or are we making it just Lincoln Street?
That's Cedar Street Extension. There's no Lincoln Street Extension.
Oh, there isn't. Okay. So it will be named Lincoln Street.
Okay.
Second.
And the second just goes along with that. Okay, so we have a motion been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush,
Ritterbush, yes.
Brendan Tedstone,
Tedstone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere,
Lafreniere, yes.
Muriel Kramer.
Muriel Kramer's a yes, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Maxwell is also a yes. All right, we have a Honeybee Pass.
Great. Thank you very much.
Here.
I'm expecting to get some honey from there now.
Okay. No pressure.
Appropriately zoned. Honeybee.
All right, our next item on the agenda is the alcohol license. Is this a public meeting that needs to happen at a specific time? Alcohol 7:05.
Yeah,
Okay. We're on time, so it might be a little late. So,
Meeting, our friend.
beg your pardon?
It does not look like it's a public meeting.
No, okay. So the board will consider approve, this is a section 15 alcohol license, change of officers, Mobile Mart at 92 West Main Street. The board will consider approving a change of officers for the section 15 package store alcohol license for Global Montello Group Corp. doing business as Mobile Mart in Hopkinton. Is John Aida here or representative of the applicant?
I am. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is John Aida of McDermott, Quilty and Miller, 28 State Street in Boston, on behalf of the licensee Global Montello Group Corp. This has been brought about on account of some recent resignations, retirements, and an untimely death in the corporate officer position. So anytime there's a change to those positions, we are required to come before the board seeking approval of those changes. So I will just really quickly summarize the changes for the board's purview. So Margaret Nycrash is replacing Gregory Hansen in the treasurer position. Sean Geary is replacing Edward Fanuel in the secretary position. And Greg Hansen, the former treasurer, is replacing Daphne Foster as the CFO. So other than those changes, there are no operational changes and no changes in the ownership. So these are simply 3 officer changes that we're requesting for this applicant.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
Through the, through the chair.
We have all the supporting documents, Elaine?
Yes, the application is complete.
Thank you.
Mr. Tedstone?
Nope, that's good. That was my question, but if as long as the town was good with it, then I'm good with it.
Okay. Amy or Mario, any questions, comments?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, then I request a motion to approve the change of officers for the section 15 alcohol license for Global Montello Group Corp. doing business as Mobile Mart Hopkinton.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, it's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Ritterbush?
Ritterbush, yes.
Mr. Tedstone?
Redstone, yes.
Ms. Lafreniere?
Lafreniere, yes.
Muriel Kramer?
Earl Kramer, yes.
And your fondness rule is a yes.
Great, thank you. We appreciate your time.
Take care.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks. All right, so next up on the agenda is board and committee appointments. Select Board will consider reappointing Ilana Cassidy and Amy Groves to the Cultural Council. This will be their second term, running from January 30th, 2022 to January 29, 2025. Is Ilana and Amy present?
Alana is here.
All right. Ilana, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, everyone.
Hey there.
I just really wanted to say hi. I love the Cultural Council. I love being part of it. Yeah, hopefully you'll let me do another term, and yeah, hi.
I gotta say, I've loved everything you've done. I think the Art on the Trail has been fantastic. The murals have been gorgeous, and just a great way of just, you know, getting the kids involved, and it's been fantastic.
Thanks.
Board members, any questions? Go ahead, Maria.
No, I think they've both done a good job on the committee. It's been a lot of good projects recently. So
Absolutely. Muriel Kramer?
Yeah, so yeah, just excited to be able to vote yes. I'm sorry, my phone is being loud. Vote yes for both of these folks to keep continuing. Great work that's been happening at the Cultural Council and really infusing a lot of all the right energy. And I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you both staying on.
Mary Jo?
Oh, I basically wanted to say the same thing. I enjoyed the trail walk this year with the art along the way. I've enjoyed many of the things that you guys have done. And I know Amy very well also. And I know, I think she had a meeting tonight too. talked to her over the weekend, and I think you've both done a great job on the council. I have no problems with reappointing you.
Mr. Tedstone.
Nope, I'm good.
All right, now, in that case, I request a motion to appoint Ilana Cassidy and Amy Groves to the Cultural Council to terms running from January 30th, 2022 to January 29, 2025.
So
So
moved.
moved. Oop, second.
Second.
All right, motion for seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush,
Rita Bush, yes.
Brendan Tedstone,
Headstone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere,
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Muriel Kramer,
Ariel Kramer, yes.
and her fondness rule is a yes. Keep up the good work, Ilana, and Amy as well.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the COVID-19 update. Sean McAuliffe, our Public Health Director, will give a brief update on the town's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. McAuliffe, you here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
Take it away.
I'll be brief. So on a positive note, we appear to be on the downslope of the peak of the Omicron surge. According to the DPH, we've had 889 confirmed cases in Hopkinton since January 1st. Of those, 386 are reported to be young adults 0 to 19 and a half, 44 are college aged, 398 are between the age of 23 and 65. And, to the credit of those at the senior center and those that utilized the senior center, we've only seen 39 above the age of 65. Now, moving beyond numbers, we consulted with the DPH the last 2 days, and the message that we're getting from them is that at this point, with this level of a surge, numbers really aren't important. We know that our true number from unreported home tests actually brings us probably closer to 1,600 cases over the month of January, just alone, like today as an example. 7 cases have been reported to me through Maven, but I know that I've had at least 25 cases through home testing that were reported to me directly. So we know that there's a significant undercount, and this is something that I'll be doing, working with IT to figure out, how do we go on with, the COVID updates, and how do we transition into this new phase where we're really focusing on hospitalizations, serious illness, trends, clusters, and really educational and outreach material. So I'll be working with IT, the communications group with HMG to work on that moving forward. Not that the residents that have school children in Hopkinton need any more confusion, but DESE and the EEC that oversees daycares just announced an additional round of regulatory changes. I will note that EEC adopted the protocol that Dr. Kavanaugh and I had put into place for the school system. So that's a kind of they've agreed that the work that we were doing was actually preventing extra cases in town. And that's just a credit to the work that we're doing collaboratively in town. But the next, I'd say week and a half, the school department, who will be announcing changes to their protocols, I think it went out in a letter today, will be helping the administration, the school nurses, and the residents work through this new set of changes, where we're going to a strict 5-day isolation, 5 days wearing a mask. Kids will be sent home each week with home tests. We'll be setting up like a weekly surveillance program, and we'll be testing kids that are symptomatic both at home and in the school. So a lot of the the responsibilities are going to be actually shifted in some ways out of the health department and the school nurses and the schools to the parents, and we'll be, working a lot to help everybody through this transition. Let's see. Daycares, they'll be provided test kits in daycare testing, which should help kind of stabilize the situation in our daycares across the Commonwealth. And I guess I'd just like to close saying that, the overarching message is to stay home when you're ill, test when you're not feeling well. We'll be providing and are making available home test kits to those that are having difficulties getting them. We need to just take the time to isolate for 5 days when you're ill, and then just wear a face covering when you either return from your isolation or, generally speaking, when you're out in public. Our position is that we in Hopkinton should just be following the governor's recommendation for face coverings. And if we're doing that, we're going to reduce our overall risk, and we'll be in a much better place in a couple weeks. And Simone and I are going to focus on hosting vaccination clinics to get those that haven't got their second dose or their boosters completed. We'll be providing them in town hall, and we're going to provide an additional round of larger regional clinics over the next couple of weeks. And I'll just add quickly, our credit to the parents in Hopkinton, because our 5 to 11 vaccination rate as of last Thursday was at 94%. When you look across the board, the residents of Hopkinton responded. They got their vaccinations, and that's why I think from a health standpoint, we're in a much better place than a lot of other communities. And an outcome standpoint, we've had fantastic outcomes, throughout this Omicron surge. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean. That's very helpful. Board members, any questions? No. Okay, thank you, Sean. Very helpful. Glad to see the numbers are coming down.
Yeah. So,
Good
all
job.
right. We'll see you in about an hour.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Next item on our agenda is the 2022 annual town meeting and fiscal year 23 budget updates. The board will hear brief fiscal year 23 budget updates for 13 town departments. Mr. Kumalu, do you have a particular order that you'd like to go in? I think you're muted.
With your permission, Mr. Chair, first will be information technology, Josh Grossetti.
All right, Josh, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. This is Josh Grossetti, Director of IT. The 3 primary opportunities before the department include implementing a robust town-wide electronic document management system, enhancing the town's website, and continued cybersecurity awareness training for all employees. If you look at tab C on our budget submission packet, this shows our budget service areas. The IT department provides a broad range of services to residents, volunteers, and employees. In the proposed operating budget, you'll see that the $44,152 increase in budget that is driven by inflation, contractual obligations, and growth is offset by $15,018, which can be attributed to found deficiencies or renegotiated contracts that have resulted in a savings to the town. And then we can take a look at new starts. Some of these new starts are technically services that we are already providing, as we initiated these new services during an earlier stage of the COVID-19 pandemic, though this budget cycle represents the first time they are being proactively budgeted for. So those two examples would be Zoom. And so if you're here with us tonight, you likely need no introduction to Zoom. And the second is a live chat customer service tool that has been implemented on the website. And just of note, in 2021, the town held almost 900 Zoom meetings and had over 750 website live chat experiences with residents. And other new starts are an email encryption system, website enhancements, and the future budgeted operating expense to support an electronic document management system, which I'll talk about in a moment when we get to the capital budget. For fiscal 23, the IT department has 4 capital requests. This starts with renewing our end user computer hardware refresh program, which is the proactive and planned replacement of employee computers. The town has 170 computers that are part of that program. And so the $66,750 request would allow us to replace 41 of those devices in fiscal 23. The second request is for data center redundancy and resiliency enhancements for $58,000. The third is for video conferencing updates for $22,390. And lastly, $70,000 for a robust electronic document management system. Hopkinton has already secured grant funding through the Community Compact IT grant offered by the Commonwealth. And so this $70,000 represents the remaining budget needed to fully fund the project. Those are the highlights of IT's fiscal 23 budget request, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Board members, any questions? Okay, so I just have one. With the state grant, how much is that? How much is it, and how is it impacting your budget?
Yeah, the grant is for $60,000, and so it has a great impact on our ability to do that project and lessening the dollar value that we would otherwise be asking for the full project cost.
So the full project cost is 70,000, and we're getting 60.
No, the $70,000 represents the remaining budget needed to fund the project, in addition to the grant funding.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any other questions? No. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Chair.
Marlo.
Mr. Chair, Megan Durand, Communication Services Director.
Megan, are you here?
I am here.
All right, you're up.
All right, good evening, everyone. So the main objective of the Communications Department is to maintain Hopkinton as a safe community through continued support of all the public safety functions. The goals that we do have include uniformity, training updates, and public educations when it comes to communications. We want to create some uniformity through new and updated procedures to operate efficiently, while also providing that high quality of service that our residents have come to expect from us. To update our training program for our current and future communication staff, just to assist with the efficient operation, providing that high quality service with our ever-changing technologies and procedures and policies and everything as it comes down. And then to create the communication specific public education, just to educate the public on what it is that we do and introduce the voices that they may speak to anytime that they call in for help. So moving on to our tab C, essentially kind of in a nutshell version of what we do in the communications department. The frontline team are the ones that are answering all the 911 calls, whether it be medical emergencies, requests for some type of fire service, requests for the police department, any type of crime in progress, anything like that. All of those generally will probably require some pre-arrival instructions. The medicals require the most of pre-arrival instructions, where the dispatchers are actually trained in emergency medical dispatch to provide those instructions while the responding units are on the way, so that we can get help to the patients even before the trucks are on scene. They answer the non-emergency business lines for both police and fire. So every day-to-day phone calls that we get, that they're fielding those, as well as assisting the folks that are walking into the police station lobby looking for assistance of some sort. Also kind of a behind the scenes for them. They're monitoring the video surveillance of most of the town's closed circuit camera TV system, as well as they're responsible for monitoring the detainees of persons in custody after they've gone through our booking process. And then kind of a next level behind the scenes that we're involved with. The biggest part probably is the management of the entire public service radio infrastructure, meaning all of our radio towers, all of our radio communications, as well as, of course, the employee training that I mentioned previously, and emergency preparedness. We work with the emergency management group to, be ready for whatever could get thrown at us. Generally, it's storms, but obviously in public safety, it could be anything, as well as building that community outreach program that we're always looking to do. And then moving on to, I believe, new starts is next. Got 3 items listed on there. One of them, the first one, is some staffing adjustments. Since we are continuously trying to improve and evolve this department, since we are pretty relatively new in the grand scheme of the town, we're always looking to improve and make it better. We've determined that workloads right now prove to be more hours than there are personnel handling that. So in order to kind of keep up with the growing needs of the community, we want to look at the real reallocation of the day-to-day duties and try to make it more efficient and operate better for the town. As well as our second item being what I just titled Pro Phoenix. As you're aware, we recently went through a major change in our in-house records management software program that we've been using. And though it's been a great change, it's obviously changed, so it's taken some getting used to, but we've invested a lot so far into this this project, basically at least 2 years now of work in many different facets, many different departments, many different personnel. So in order to keep it as the new and improved system and get the max utilization out of it, I'm looking to hopefully kind of build in a position of, or not necessarily a position, but a kind of a specialty for if I need to bring in folks to help keep it up and running, make system adjustments, things like that, just to build it out and make it continuously better and better every year that we use it, because it has a lot of capabilities and we'd like to use it to its fullest as we've put a lot into it. So, and then the last item sort of goes along with capital requests I have, but essentially to get into a annual maintenance, preventative maintenance plan for our radio infrastructure. I'll get into it a little bit more in the capital item, but our system, it would benefit us tremendously if we were able to have monitoring on our equipment and be able to get someone in once a year, twice a year to kind of take a look at everything we've got and see where things may be starting to fail, may have already failed and we didn't know it yet, just to kind of stay ahead of it so that we don't end up in a catastrophic failure, which would not be very good. So that's it for the new starts. And then moving on to our items, the personnel service is bound by contractual increases, of course. And a couple of the new starts are listed in there. So that's where that change comes from. And essentially the same with our expenses. The increase comes from that, the annual radio maintenance new start, which actually you'll notice that the change is actually less than what is requested for that radio new start, because I was able to rework a few numbers that we had previously been approved for in previous years. So it lessened the damage a little bit. So we are, increasing by quite a bit, but it's, in a matter to grow this department and make this department better and get it, what it needs to function properly. And then finally, moving on to the capital request, we do only have one request. It is a request for essentially at the end of the day, an update to our radio infrastructure and the entire system. Right now, we're looking for $100,000 to build the project design and to come up with essentially the full out spec sheet and everything that we can take out to bid to get an actual quote for a capital request to be submitted for fiscal 24. Just a little bit of history on it. Our current system is, when I say extremely fragile, I'm being very nice. We have no redundancy built in, and we have one site that controls all of our equipment for the most part. We have other satellite sites as well, but one site, we have what is called transmit sites and receive sites, and we only have one transmit site. And most of our components are about at least 20 years old, if not older. So if you think about where technology's been in the last 20 years, we're operating on 20-year-old equipment. We have experienced recent outages and a couple failures recently that we've been able to kind of get through, but not without a little bit of running around and panic and figuring out how we're going to fix it. So it's definitely very fragile, and a failure will be catastrophic to all of public safety, not just police, not just fire, everybody, which would obviously, you do the math, that's not good if public safety can't talk to each other. So I do have 2 studies currently that have been done on the system. One was a consultant who kind of just went through and assisting with what our options are for upgrades, and kind of took a little bit of an inventory of what we have. And then I had a radio vendor come in to do more of a health of our equipment type survey. So I have both of those that I'm working through, and then we'll kind of take it to the next step of going out to engineering firms, or, however it needs to be done to actually draw up the specs of what we want done, and then determine, how much to request for the actual project itself. So that pretty much sums it up. So I welcome any questions, comments.
Thank you for that. Board members, any questions?
Nice report, Megan. Thank you.
Ms. Kramer?
Oh, sorry.
Megan, thank you very much for that. That was really comprehensive, and I appreciate the sort of real overarching investment in the department. I do have a question with this particular level of investment and reinvestment. What is your projection for sort of the health of your department over the next 5 years? Or is this a one-step reinvestment that is needed, or are we looking at more like this coming forward?
In regards to what are you talking in the radio system?
Staffing, expenses, the equipment. Is this kind of does this get your department back where it needs to be, or is there going to be more sizable investment that's needed in the next couple of years?
So I mean, we are a relatively stable department. What we're more looking to do is kind of grow to a point of, just handling all of the inside type tasks that we have, and the stuff that the public doesn't see that we still all do behind the scenes, things as simple as scheduling, payroll, paying invoices, organizing the training for everybody, all these things nothing happens without something being done. You know what I'm saying? So it's just now the department has grown. It used to be 4 full-time people. Now there's 9, including me, 8 out on the floor. And including, we also have part-timers as well that are held to the same requirements as the full-timers when it comes to training certificates and things like that. So, you know, the department has grown over the years, therefore the workload grows, right? So, you know, where I see it in 5 years, I'm not 100% sure. It kind of depends on what really happens in the next 5 years, you know? But we're always.
Yeah, so, I know you can't necessarily project forward, but do you feel like this kind of investment in the new person is going to foot you well for the next couple of years? I mean, does this really get the job done?
I would say so. Yeah, I would agree to that. Yeah.
Okay.
From a standpoint of where I sit right now, I'm comfortable answering that. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Tedstone.
Nope, I'm good.
And Sridharbush? All set? Okay. Thank you, Megan. I think it was a great presentation. I think we want to see the department being able to be funded to you know, carry out its functions. So thank you. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Kamalo.
Good work, Megan. Thank you. Next, Maria Casey, Human Resources.
Hello, Maria. I see you there. There you are.
I'm here. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Wonderful. Would you like me to start?
Please dive right in.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. The Human Resources Department objectives are: number 1, to advise, advance, and champion diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging so that the workplace mirrors the community. This objective is also in alignment with one of the Select Board's top priorities, as well as the pledge. Thus, the town, through its HR department, is committed to equal opportunity, encourages diversity and inclusion, and believes that a positive culture of inclusion makes Hopkinton a great place to live and work. When the organization was thinking about DEI, an acronym that most folks are intimately familiar with, one sense kept coming to mind. That is, most everybody wants to belong. So Hopkinton, in its unique fashion, added belonging to DEI. Throughout this presentation, I'll be using the acronym DEIB. The second objective is to build diversity and organizational resilience, especially with regard to the almost 2-year pandemic we have been living through. And number 3 is to develop an organizational succession plan. Next slide, please. Well, great. So for tab C, which are the service areas, HR is responsible for DEIB collaborations with all departments and employees, talent management, classification and compensation, training, benefits administration, employee relations, recognition reward, and compliance. The 3 areas that are of a higher priority this year is DEIB, talent management, and the classification and compensation plan. With regard to talent management, you may have read or heard in the news the Great Resignation or the turnover tsunami, which Hopkinton is not exempt from. So with regard to talent management, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the labor force participation is trending down to 60.4%. This includes retirements and a declining population. and is coupled with 2020's lowest unemployment rate, where there were 11.9 million new jobs and only 8.9 million new entrants to the labor workforce. SHRM also reports a 52% turnover rate, which is an increase from 35% in 2020. And then with regard to the classification and compensation plan, the town reviews the plan every 3 years, and the classification and compensation plan is analyzed. It's a very extensive and thorough review. And so we are starting to embark on that. And it's a engaging process back and forth with the vendor. And we hope that the town manager will make a recommendation to the select board for the classification and compensation plan for July 1st. Next tab, please, with the new starts. Oh, thank you. All right. So with the new starts, I'm requesting permission for a full-time administrative assistant position. Currently, Human Resources has 3 full-time employees. The optimal HR staff ratio to full-time equivalency employees is 1 1/2. Hopkinton's HR staff ratio to full-time equivalents is currently at 1.09. This ratio does not take into impact of the 289 retirees that HR cares for. Finally, with this request, I thought it would be important to share a few statistics of HR's service. In 2021, we increased the number of customer service transactions year over year from 1,613 to 2,673 transactions. That's a 39% increase. There's been a 55% increase of Park and Rec summer clinic positions to support the Park and Rec programs. Also, we care for 1,330 insurance subscribers. We managed 51 recruitments, an increase of 34%, and we've processed and redacted 517 employee applications. That's a 116% increase year over year. And it supports one of our DEIB initiatives of blind resume review. Next slide, please. And so, in summary, with the exception of inflationary costs and the new start of an admin assistant, I've been able to keep the HR expenses level funded by keenly negotiating with HR vendors. I hope you will support HR's request. I have no capital requests. Thank you kindly for your time.
Thank you, Maria. That's very helpful. Board members, do you have any questions?
No.
Nicely done, Maria.
Thank you, Brendan.
I just wanted to say thank you very much. And obviously this represents a lot of keen attention and discipline. The percentage for your staff to full-time employees is pretty impressive. So
thank you very much.
Mary Jo?
I just really want to say that was a good job. I feel like I have an understanding of the budget or the department now, and just got to move forward.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
Ms. Redbush?
Think I really have anything to add. I really appreciate all these presentations and the detail and walking us through the steps so we really understand the needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much and for your support.
Absolutely. I just want to echo what everyone else is saying. Fantastic presentation, and we really appreciate the in-depth review that you've given us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Corallo.
Cora Dugan on town clerk and elections budgets.
Mr. Deegan, you are up next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There we go. So obviously you probably remember this slide from the all hands meeting, but the service areas that the town clerk's office impacts is quite a large range. We dabble in a little of everything, but some of the major pieces really focus around election administration, licensing, records management, as well as other types of like licenses, permits that we're responsible for issuing and maintaining. So realistically, our goals for this year's budget were to try to address some of the things that we talked about in past years, and also address some concerns that we saw as we kind of faced the pandemic. So if we can go over to the next slide. So this is a general summary, obviously, of all of the different service areas and kind of what those entail for the department. And so a lot of them are just statutory requirements, but some are things that just really make the community a better place. One of the pieces that's huge for me, it's not always something that's deemed as necessary, is things like, civic engagement, encouraging voter registration and voter education. And that's something that we've worked really closely on with a number of different organizations in town to keep costs down on things like that, even while being able to still provide services like that to the community. Most of the impact that you're going to see on the budget this year is going to be more so on the election side. Most of the stuff in the town clerk's office is pretty standard around salaries, and then a few additional new start pieces. And we can just go on to that with the next slide. We'll go to the new starts. Perfect. Thank you very much. And so the larger item that we're looking at that's going to be an impact on the salaries this year is something we identified a few years ago and have kind of tried to find alternative solutions since. During 2020, we obviously had, we kind of saw that we were relying too heavily on the senior tax credit workers as they weren't able to come in anymore. And as we ran into that issue, we saw that Lynn and myself were completely laid out flat. So it comes back to an ask that I've made a couple times now, and I'm going to do it again for a part-time employee in the office. This would be under 20 hours a week for the time being. It would be, I don't want to ask for something full-time if we don't know how we're going to use it. We still do have our senior tax credit workers who can come in, but it's still just, with Omicron right now, we're still trying to be as cautious as we can with the space. And so we figure that this would be a fantastic way to increase the service quality that we can offer to residents. It's a bit overdue with especially with some of the elections we've had recently, but having this person coming forward into 2022 and getting someone on board in time for the primaries as well as the 2020 state election will be vital, especially since we've seen an expansion of mail-in voting on the state level, and we're seeing an increased interest in that. As we see that, we're going to see a much higher workload in the office that's going to require carefully trained staff to be able to do. And so as much as we still have plenty of work for all of our seniors and volunteers and election workers, we still definitely need additional trained staff who can do some of these other pieces. So then obviously, as you recall from later last year, we've added a new precinct. With the new precinct and the upgrade in the minimum wage, we are seeing the need for higher cost for election staff, who most besides the wardens and clerks are making minimum wage. And then we're also seeing the need to add a 5th precinct, so we'll have to add additional employees. We did find some cost savings on this by the fact that the state is still allowing us to eliminate the checkout tables. So we did see a bit of a savings there, but we still have a minimum number that we have to have per precinct. So with the addition of the precinct, we're going to see that increase. And then, with the additional hourly rate, we're going to also see that have an effect on this budget. Now, also, when it comes to election staffing, obviously, this is one that I've said year after year. If you've watched any budget presentation from me, I describe it as a roller coaster, in that it's going to go up some years and it's going to go down in other years. This last year, it was down significantly because we just had planned for, or in this current year, we have planned for one election and a town meeting. So I really am seeing here that we're going to have at least the election and town meeting, plus we're going to have a state election and state primary with unknown amount of early voting hours in person, and additional processing for mail-in ballots as well. One item that is on here that changed, we were looking at getting the additional precinct tabulator that was for the 4,500. Working with Norman and Ben, we managed to find a solution that we should be able to get that all set for this coming year, or for this current year, and we shouldn't have to worry about it. So that way we can have it online, considering technically precinct 5 is already legally in existence. So we want to make sure that we have the additional tabulator ready. So this would be for the spare, but we don't need to worry about that one at the moment. Then last but not least, we have the audit archive. If anyone has seen the archive down at the Fruit Street facility, it's quite a sight. And so we are the depository there for all town departments, and we then have to occasionally review records to see if they need to be destroyed. Our office doesn't quite have the time to go through every single one of them, but we do have a vendor that the town has used for a number of other records retention projects that has been able to come in and help us get everything sorted out and get the lists of records in front of departments so that they can authorize destruction of records that are no longer of any administrative use and can be sent to the supervisor for destruction permission. And then also for them to review and see if there's records that need to be kept for other reasons, because their administrative use may not have ceased, even if their retention period has. So that's the primary pieces that we're asking for. Most everything is directly related to growth and regulatory changes with the, and that's pretty much what we're seeing. I don't know if anyone has any questions to start off, or if they want me to go into anything more particular, but here's the breakdown right now. It's definitely a little bit higher than we had hoped, but I am very confident that everything there is stuff that we will need, and hopefully we will not have to see another increase for a while.
Excellent, thank you. Board members, any questions for Mr. Deegan?
Nice work as always, Diggs.
Thank you, Chairman Emeritus.
Yeah, I'll just say, like, I think we know we've increased the population from 14,000 to 18,000 in the last 10 years. And definitely we're going to have a lot more people registering to vote, a lot more censuses to be sent out, a lot more people needing to purchase a dog license. Just I can see how the workload has really increased, and I understand the need for more staffing and more equipment.
Absolutely. So I just want to, I just have one question. You'd mentioned that with the additional precinct, we needed, you found a solution for the tabulator. But if I recall correctly, we got that tabulator a few years back for redundancy. Am I correct in that?
You recall correctly, Mr. Chair. So it is common practice, best practice, and it is the recommendation of the election division that every town maintain at least one spare machine. We've always maintained a spare. We bought the fifth one for the future redundancy, but also to have, in the meantime, we've used it as our spare machine. It has happened in the past where during an election, a machine breaks down. The election doesn't stop because a machine stops. All it does is it turns that entire precinct into a hand-counted precinct unless we can get some other additional hardware up and running. So as much as this is something realistically that could wait until next year, it is a safe option to just have it done this year so that we have it not need it. It's kind of like an insurance policy in that matter.
Sure. But is this something that we can expect another budget request in the future for redundancy purposes?
You can expect another budget request like this in the next 10 years.
Okay.
Because we're likely going to be going up to a 6th or 7th precinct by 2030. So, I mean, we could see additional purchases like that by then, but we likely won't see even the end of life of the existing machines in that time frame.
Okay. But I mean, so we don't have a spare machine for the next, 10 years though, right? 7 years.
So, sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Are we still going to have a spare machine if needed, like a backup?
Yeah, so the spare machine would continue, and we would be able to say that we'd purchase additional machines if needed and keep hopefully a spare that would exist either for the whole town at minimum, and then by that point, depending on how many polling places and everything else, it's hard to tell the future on that one.
Sure.
But we'd most likely be able to just maintain one unless we, for some reason, saw the need that we had to go up to an additional.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was an excellent presentation. Great job.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. And as always, thank you for being so cautious and looking into all of this so carefully. It's really important to have the checks and balances on the system that you provide in this.
Thank you. Mr. Kamalu.
Hey, Connor, thank you. Next is Tim O'Leary for the Finance Department budget.
Hi there, Tim.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm happy to be here tonight talking about the finance budget that includes the town treasurer, collector, the assessors, payroll, and my position as the CFO. That's 8 people in all. This slide shows our strategic objectives. And of course, it's all about supporting a fiscally sound, open, and fair local government. We really have a couple of things that are covered in those next 2 bullets. One is to get efficiency and effectiveness in our business processes. And the second side is to provide good analysis to support decisions. And those are decisions that can be made by town departments, by the select board, by town meeting, and by members of the public. So we think that analysis piece is very important to inclusion, to making sure people understand the town government and how the town government is supporting them and representing them with a value proposition. In the coming year, our focus will be on progress in those areas through 3 things shown in the table: continuous improvement in our business processes, leveraging technology to improve the quality and resilience of our processes, and then continued deployment of that financial dashboard, which supports transparency and good decision-making across the town. If we can move on to the next slide, that begins a little 3-page spread that shows our service areas, which we covered at the strategic discussion a few weeks ago. You can see that if you slip down to the next 2 pages, 1, 2 more, that it also shows our cross-cutting objectives, the things we work on. And really this template, which is hanging on my wall, is very helpful to us in looking at our outcomes and impacts and understanding the relative importance of the different things we're working on. So it helps bring us back to center and keeps us focused. If you can go 2 slides forward to slide 28, we really have no new starts. So slide 28 shows the finance budget with an overall drop of 1.4%. Yeah, if you can go 1 more forward, that slide, right. That previous slide just showed reshuffling of the way positions were counted between the treasurer and the assessor. But getting back to this slide, it shows finance budget with an overall drop of 1.4%. Most of that occurs in personnel. We had 3 new team members who replaced 3 longer serving employees. So the change was really the result of bringing newer people who are newer to their career fields in as a longer serving, more highly compensated employees left. I'm happy to report that finance is now fully staffed for the first time in a couple of years. And I want to thank the HR department for their help with those recruitments. We were down 3 of 8 people last year, and it was a difficult period last summer and fall. We did achieve some efficiencies in the expense line by squeezing down on supplies, conferences, and some money we had earmarked over several years for software implementation. And those savings helped to cover other inflationary costs for postage and some other supply categories. The final line there is for the assessor appraisal services, and it's substantial at the level $181.5 thousand. That covers contracted support for the tax rate setting process. It covers analysis, tracking, and audits on our growing portfolio of business personal property. But mostly it's for technical and litigation support to defend tax appeal cases. And over 95% of the value of those cases is between us and Eversource. If we can ever get alignment on taxation with Eversource, that number will go down and we'll spend somewhat less on it. But Eversource is, of course, our largest taxpayer, paying $3.3 million in taxes this year after last year's successful effort to evaluate and increase their legitimate taxation. So the good news is we're fully staffed. We're controlling costs within our operation. We're continuing to work on process improvements and improvements to transparency. And just as a parting thought, I want to go back for 1 more minute to the importance of this assessing function. Everything we do here is very important. Collecting a $11 motor vehicle excise tax is important to that taxpayer. We do it with great care. We do it with great professionalism. But the assessing function in this town is extraordinarily important because we have this large, conflict-prone major taxpayer who's supplying almost 5% of our tax levy. And it costs us money and it takes expertise to engage with that stakeholder. And I'm very happy to say that the assessing division is back on track and we feel we are well poised to engage with Eversource in the coming years and continue to deliver wins for the town as we did last year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. I know that we all like seeing those negative numbers there. Great job. Board members, any questions or comments?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, Ms. Muriel Kramer?
Yeah, so thank you for that. And also, I just take the opportunity to thank you for the increased transparency and visibility into the financial workings of the town. I think that it's very appreciated by many that the information is increasingly more easily accessible and people can follow it. So I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I'm just also thrilled to see that you're finally fully staffed. I know it's a lot of work, and it's just not fair to spread it out amongst a smaller group. So glad to see that.
I just had a question on that. Did we fill the principal assessor position? Or
We have a principal assessor who is, I can say without reservation, perhaps the most qualified assessor in the Commonwealth. Mr. John Neese is the
okay,
serving
he came
principal
back.
assessor.
Okay, great.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tim.
That thrills me. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tim. Great presentation, and appreciate the transparency. And like I said, those negative numbers look great.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kamalo.
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you, transitioning from a bigger picture perspective to the department that actually counts the money and makes sure that what we're saying is correct. Ben Sweeney, Accounting and Procurement.
Hello, Ben.
Mr. Chair.
You're up.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. The goal of the Accounting, Procurement, and Grants Department is to improve the short and long-term financial outcomes of the town by following our guiding principles of empowerment, engagement, stewardship, and compliance. So consistent with the presentation we made at the all hands meeting, our goals in the coming year are to leverage the Munis ERP system to increase efficiency and effectiveness in our operations and automate processes that are currently manual and be able to return more value to the taxpayer. And second is to really identify grant opportunities to help support town success. So recently, in the last year or so, the federal government passed the American Rescue Plan Act, often referred to as ARPA, and as well as an infrastructure plan. So there was money that was allocated to the town in what we call a formula allocation based on the population. But there's also a great deal of opportunities out there in the competitive grant side. So we're going to really be looking at those two grant programs to identify programs that can support town effort. And I would just point out that in the allocation of the infrastructure bill, at least over $1 billion was allocated for water infrastructure. So that's an item that we really have a focus on. And third, to support the town's commitment to environmental responsibility, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion by consciously building specifications, leveraging state resources, including the Supplier Diversity Office and the Operational Services Division. So moving on to our strategic impact. On the next slide, two items that happen behind the scenes but are nonetheless very important every year are the certifications by our primary regulator, the Department of Revenue. And what that allows is statutorily required, and doing so allows us to continue to receive state aid, which is the next largest revenue source for the town behind property taxes, as well as allowing town meeting to appropriate what's commonly referred to as free cash or balances from prior years. And the second piece is the annual audit process that has a few layers of importance. First, it's simply good business practice to do and helps drive continuous improvement and helps protect the town. And secondly, it also is required to allow us to continue to have access to the bond markets. Without completing that once a year, we wouldn't be able to borrow money. And that also allows us to continue to have federal support through what's often referred to as the single audit. So in addition to those important regulatory pieces, are expanding financial transparency and disclosures to the community on an ongoing basis and to support the decision-making process. And as I mentioned earlier, we're really looking for opportunities in the ARPA and infrastructure legislation that can help the town priorities, again, with a principal focus on addressing the PFAS contamination in town. So moving on to the budget request. The FY23 budget request represents a 4% decrease year over year, and that's largely due to efficiencies from the retirement of the town accountant and assistant town accountant over the last year and a half. We're not requesting any funding for capital items or new starts, though I will add that we're seeking to do a lot of new things, just not items that will require additional ask on the budget side. And so in summary, we believe this budget request allows us to meet our objectives, and thank you for the opportunity and welcome any questions you might have.
Thank you so much. That was great. I love the efficiencies. Board members, do you have any questions or comments?
No, just thank you for a job well done and some real clear explanations. I guess I do have one question. I appreciate the focus on the water infrastructure funds that are available. I think that is key and very important. I wondered too if there is also some focus on, I know a big part of the ARPA funds also deal with mental health and substance use disorder. And I wonder if we're keeping an eye on that in terms of shoring up our ability to provide services in town at the same time.
Through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely. We're casting a really wide net on what was allocated in that legislation. And I really need to say thanks to our legislative team in the Commonwealth that provided some earmarked money to support initiatives just like that. So we're keeping an eye out and make it a priority.
Great. Thank you so much. Since there's no other questions or comments, so thank you. It was a great presentation. I do appreciate the focus on water. I think the PFAS thing is something that we're all very concerned about. So fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Kamalu.
Yes, Mr. Chair, nice segue to our next presentations. We are now focusing on human services, and our first presenter is Dawn Alcott Miller for Youth and Family Services.
Good evening, Dawn.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. So Youth and Family Services, we have a wide array of service areas. So I won't read every single one to you, but what I can tell you with a very small team of 1 3/4 staff, which is growing. We, as you know, a third position was approved for a clinical and programmatic role for this year that we're in, and we're in the process of hiring for that. So with our small team, our goal is that every resident has a place to turn when they need help. And we know that we cannot possibly, with 1 3/4 people, provide help for every single person who needs it. So we're looking for innovative ways in this next year to reach as many as we possibly can so that our touch goes out more broadly in the community. We want to reduce mental health stigma through support and educational programs for youth in the community. Because mental health is health, and by normalizing this broad concept in various programmatic ways, the health of the community is improved. We want to develop and implement a promotion strategy with underserved populations to reach underserved populations, to really listen to the community and to listen to those who don't always believe that our services are for them, because all residents deserve to be listened to and have access to the department's services in a manner that fosters dignity and respect. And to engage the community in the work of primary prevention of substance misuse, to improve the quality of life for youth residents and their families by stopping substance use before it starts. If we could go to the next slide, please. So in our budget service areas, I'm gonna make that a little larger on my monitor because that's teeny tiny. The one I'm incredibly excited about that I don't need to ask anything from you for is primary prevention, because of 2 very wonderful grants we received that will provide $165,000 in this next year and well over $625,000 over 5 years for this purpose. So the grants we got are so much more than funding. They bring a lot of free training. They bring a lot of diversity and equity strategic planning to the department. So we're excited about that. So that one we feel like we have well covered with the addition of 1 1/4 staff people through those grants. They will be spearheading the HOP Coalition going forward, and we're very excited for what the community can experience. And service areas 2 through 8 are what we do every day. It's that information and referral, the clinical services, the education, the crisis response, of which there have been so many more this year. Those crises require so much more time and so many more services being brought in to assist residents, assist departments as they deal with those crises, and then assist the broader people who are touched by those crises. Our case management program, we see more and more people who need that safety net. And our collaborative programming, because of the great groups in the town, we are so blessed to work with so many very cool organizations, I might say, from the Freedom Team to the Youth Commission and the South Asian Circle of Hopkinton, again, HOP, and the churches and schools and town departments. We really enjoy their intelligence, their guidance, and their thoughts on the work that we do, and journeying beside us and being hands and feet in the community, furthering the work that we can do. And then again, from the basic things, addressing food scarcity and access to basic needs. So with all that said, I'm fortunate that on the third slide, that really our costs are inflationary. We have one new service that we're asking for that's very small. It's towards an electronic medical record system so that we are compliant, and that in our administration of the department, that we're doing so by all the regulatory compliances that we need to have. But everything else is inflationary. And that's kind of good news. When I think about the interface referral service, and when they came to us and said, you're getting a lot of service for a very low fee, and we've changed our fee structure because your town really utilizes that service well. I know it's been a job well done to get that service into residents' hands. And so they did go up on us because we utilize it so much. And then our personnel services are inflationary only because of inflationary costs related to raises or things like that. So that's it for us. Our budget did not go up by much, only $13,865. And we're able to keep those costs low because we have yet to experience the hiring of this new staff person that was previously approved. And I know that's going to bring such an opening to our department with additional clinical services, but also bigger programs and more regular programs that can be brought to people for education and support. And then with primary prevention, as I shared, I feel like we have that well covered by the grants we received this year. So that is my presentation. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you very much. That was excellent. Again, I'd like to see all that you do with such a small staff. It's you're really hitting it out of the park there. Board members, any questions or comments? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to echo you. With very few hands, you are making really big strides in an area that we, like all communities everywhere, really need additional supports. You know, the grant funding that you have been able to bring in is truly exciting. So I look forward to hearing more about the advancements that brings us.
Thank you so much. Mr. Kamalo.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, continuing to fly Hopkinton's flag of excellence in human services, Jay Guelphy, Parks and Recreation.
How you doing? Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight. Parks and Recreation, quite simply, our objective is to provide inclusive recreation programs and facilities for each resident in town. And when I say each resident, that now includes dogs. So we're very happy about that this year. We'll get into our service areas on the next slide, but just for our goals this year, they're very specific. Our biggest goal, and it's time to do this, is to replace our athletic field at Fruit Street. We built that field 11 years ago. It had a estimated life of 8 to 12 years, and we are there now. So we do this to ensure the safety of our 3,000 plus participants that play there, and to maintain a high quality facility that continues to be a destination for soccer tournaments and lacrosse tournaments all over New England. Our second goal is we intend to construct public pickleball courts this year, and I know a lot of people are excited about that. We think this is going to provide a couple of things, mostly our active seniors in town who have all been asking for this. So we came up with a plan. We're going to build courts down at Fruit Street, and we're going to continue to increase our footprint down at Fruit Street and make that property a place to go in town for recreation. And then finally, we'd like to implement down at Sandy Beach a point of sale payment system. We want to do this so we can provide residents with an opportunity to pay for their parking pass or their beach pass or their trailer pass without cash. And it also reduces the amount of cash we have down there, which come with inherent risks that we'd like to try and eliminate. If we can go to the next slide. You can see our budget service areas, and you can see our first three are all recreational program related for youth, adults, and seniors. As our community expands and our demographics change, we have to adapt, and we are adapting. So we engage the community, and we try very hard not to be reactionary, but to be proactive and to be ahead of it. So we've come to the conclusion that a lot of folks really want some recreational type activities that aren't necessarily athletic. So as I say that, outside my door right now are 20 middle-aged kids currently being trained and certified for CPR. So we're proud of the fact that we can offer these types of programs for not just kids, but for adults. And on the athletic side, we now have a very robust cricket league in town, which if you haven't had a chance to go down and watch a cricket tournament, I strongly encourage you to do so. It's a lot of fun. And the folks who participate in it are very, very, very into it. Other than recreational programs, you can see our other service areas are the maintenance of facilities, specifically Fruit Street, which, as I've mentioned before, has become really our, destination for athletic activities in town. And you'll see in our link to the strategic objectives, the themes are promoting a healthy, vibrant, welcoming, and inclusive community. We want public spaces that are aesthetically pleasing, that are well maintained, so that people can go there and take pride in the community and pride in our spaces. We want to sustain that town infrastructure, not just for us, but for future generations of participants. And then lastly, community inclusion programming. We offer concerts all summer at the Common now. We don't charge fees for those. Anyone can go and enjoy a concert on Sunday afternoon now. And with the help from a lot of folks, we've got a vast array of bands that play now. It's not just oldies and pop music anymore. We have a Dollywood band, we have a salsa band, we have what we hope is something for everyone at some point to go down and really enjoy. So that's who we are and what we're trying to do. And I couldn't help but notice as I listened to all my colleagues present tonight, I'm fortunate in that our department is the beneficiary of every single thing that these folks do, between finance and HR and facility and human health services, and all the stuff that these folks do literally impacts what we do as a department. And I'm very grateful for that. If you look at the next slide, our budget, you'll see that we actually have a decrease in personnel services. And that's a little misleading because we're actually paying our staff more. But what we're able to do now through the help of town finance is our programming expenses and revenues are all run now, not through the general fund, but through a revolving fund. So a lot of our salary and our salary expense is now run through that revolving fund, which lowers the burden on the general fund, but enables us to really devote time and associate those costs directly with the services that we provide. We did increase our expenses a little bit. That's mostly due to some software upgrades in our registration system and some materials that we're going to purchase for EMC Playground and the dog park. But overall, basically level spending from last year to this year. But before I leave you, I do have one major capital request, as I mentioned earlier. We are going to be looking to replace the surface at Fruit Street. We've engaged Gale Associates to do an estimate for us and a brief test. And you can see that's not a small number. It's 1.6 million, 1.6, 1.7 million. And that will be to replace the surface, to provide a shock pad, and to replace the existing crumb rubber infill with a more EnviroFill, which is similar to what's at the high school, which is coated sand, which is more environmentally friendly. We are hoping, we're ambitious, and we do hope to get started on that this summer if we get through town meeting. We do have some environmental issues that we need to get past, but we're hoping to do that and move forward on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate all that. I think a fantastic job. I love everything that you guys are doing in town, especially with regard to the youth programming and all those opportunities. One question I have is how much revenue is generated out of the Fruit Street fields?
On a good year, probably $150,000, $160,000.
In a bad year?
Well, during COVID, obviously, not very much, but we are now actually approaching pre-COVID revenue numbers. So kids want to play soccer. That's the bottom line. And whether they have to wear a mask or whether they have to wear a hazmat suit, they're going to go down and play, and they're going to play in March. They're going to play, and they're going to come from all over. So where there's a will, there's a way. And we had a good year last year. We anticipate a very good spring. So yeah.
Excellent. So just one little off topic, but I do want to say I think Reed Park could use some love. But
I agree.
Yeah. Board members, any questions? Amy?
I just wondered, and we can find out more later, but I thought the Fruit Street fields, they were going to be generating enough money that could be put aside to help cover the cost of the replacement. I think
So
we put
we
them in
do-
10 years ago.
Yeah. So I think 11 years ago, there was a model put together that said there should be enough revenue, enough, profit year to year to be able to replace that field, which was, I think, a good plan at the time. But I don't think they realized that when they made Hopkinton Youth Soccer a partner in that plan, that that really went out the window. So for 10 years, Hopkinton Youth Soccer paid no fees to play in that field because they financed the building of the field. So now that we are past that agreement, we don't intend to renew it. We should see a lot more money going into that fund going forward. That being said, we do have about $350,000 to contribute towards it. So that isn't insignificant. It's a nice chunk of money. It's not going to cover the entire cost, obviously, but it is something. And like I said, we anticipate going forward, now that Hopkinton Youth Soccer is a fee-paying tenant rather than a partner, we should see a lot more money coming in year to year.
That sounds good. I think you're just going to need some slides that explain it well at town meeting, because I think a lot of people will have
Yep.
questions about that.
We're anticipating that. Yeah.
Muriel Kummer?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up on what Amy said, and it's not a criticism for you, Jay, but that was part and parcel of the agreement. back in the day. So it really, I anticipate a lot of questions as well, because it should have all been factored in to the fees to ensure that we were able to replace those fields without imposing on the taxpayer.
It's a fair question. I think it's a question that our commission is prepared to answer. They're anticipating it. So we will be prepared to answer those questions.
Thank you so much. I have one more question through you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is not a criticism, it's just an observation. Back when we were voting on those fields, there were a lot of questions about the environmental safety of the materials that were being used, and we were assured, of course, at the time that they were safe, and I would anticipate an awful lot of questions about that as well. And would imagine people want to be really solidly assured that whatever materials we put in that close to our wells is safe, not to mention close to everybody's homes that are out there too.
Yeah, again, a very fair question, Muriel. And we are currently working with Weston and Sampson and Public Works to actually address that right now, to make sure, A, that what's there now, the remnants of what's actually there aren't causing a problem, and what we intend to put in going forward doesn't cause a problem as well. So I appreciate that question. We anticipated it. Concom actually asked the question as well, and we are in the process of studying that.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Fantastic presentation. Mr. Kamala?
Hold on.
Okay, Mr. Tedstone.
I don't know, you're skipping me there, big fella.
I didn't see you make any motion that you wanted to speak.
I always want to speak.
All right, go for it.
So, Mr. Gelfi, I will be repetitive in my comments to say each year when you guys come up and do your spiel here, how the Parks and Rec department has changed in historically through the years in Hopkinton. Growing up here, it was a decent little kind of a department. It's blossomed into a flagship department. I think you guys do a great job. My kids have been part of going to those camps, those summer camps, as you know, for years. They do youth basketball. We take part. My family gets to take part in most all the programs that you guys offer, and you guys do a great job. But I guess the point that I wanted to bring up is it's not a complaint. It's more of a criticism. Is there was only one person tonight that was voted into the Hall of Fame, and it was not a Yankee. That was David Ortiz. So I'm sorry that Mr. Sheffield and Mr. A-Rod didn't get in, but if you're interested in wearing a Red Sox hat, I have more than a couple. I'd be happy to swap out with that silly thing that you wear on your head.
I appreciate that very much, Mr. Tedstone. I'll think about that for about 3 seconds.
All right, well, so as to not leave anyone else out. Mary Jo, any comments? I think you're muted.
You're muted, Mary Jo.
I'm going to do this. No, I'm at the liaison to Parks and Rec, and I did work with them over the summer on Sandy Beach and a few things like that. And I too very much appreciate the job that they're doing. Glad to see them right here on Walcott Street. And it's just, the field problem is a problem, and we are going to have to take care of that. But other than that, they are moving us forward in leaps and bounds, and I really appreciate Parks and Rec. They're doing a good job.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Okay, guys.
All right, Mr. Kamala.
Mr. Chair, next presentation, in fact, is the department that defines human services. Amy Beck, Senior Services.
Good evening. It's great to be here tonight.
Good evening, Amy.
So, I know we've talked about it a lot, but our vision and our main objective in senior services is to provide a community where seniors can feel valued and respected and can have active and independent lives. Our goals going into fiscal year 23 really support and provide for our seniors. The first one that we've looked at is to continue to strengthen our relationships with our community partners, to expand our ability to provide resources and programs to a diverse community. I think it speaks for itself. We are really happy to work with so many departments here in Hopkinton and throughout, and departments and organizations, I guess, that really support us and that we are trying to make sure that we're a household name as well. So you hear about the schools, we want you to hear about the senior center. We're also looking to broaden programming to promote awareness and appreciation and to promote inclusiveness in Hopkinton. We find this really important because there are many people who've lived in Hopkinton who come to the senior center, who've lived there, have lived here their whole lives. And there are a lot of people who are newer to Hopkinton, and we really are striving to make sure that they continue to feel connected and included in what we provide here at the senior center. The other thing is to continue our work towards an age and dementia friendly community. This is actually a multi-year project. We are well underway. We have a number of pieces in place, but we also have a core group who are really dedicated and excited to move forward with this. Next slide. So we've identified about 16 service areas, but they can really be boiled down to three main categories: engagement and outreach, transportation, and programming. So we've really been expanding our cultural, our social engagement, support groups, and finding ways to really connect with the whole community, or the senior community especially. Our transportation program is back up and running. We're moving again. And our programming is growing. I think if you look at our newsletter, which we send out monthly, and hopefully you've had a chance to check it out, you can see not only are we continuing what we did prior to COVID, but we are expanding more and more. And we do feel that all of these programs do support the overall strategic mission and foster inclusivity and account for the diversity in our community. And it's an ongoing process for us to make sure that we're actually doing that. But we're very dedicated to do that. As far as going forward, our new starts, next slide, thank you, is we are looking to add to our personnel by providing additional transportation. We currently provide transportation 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, and we find that there are individuals who would like to attend programs on Mondays, and this would enable us to help them to come to the senior center. Not having transportation really limits some of the programs that we can provide on that day. Next slide. So I believe our budget will enable us to continue to provide services and programs for Hopkinton seniors. This budget does reflect a 2.86% increase from last year's budget. But this increase can be broken down into an inflationary increase in personal services and in expenses. Our programs are costing more this year. And so we were hoping to add to our program budget. Our new services for this year is, sorry, I lost my spot. New services, we're asking for $2,250. Of that, $1,000 is being added for programming. We've really expanded quite a bit in our programming, but the other increase is for our postage. We, over the last, I'd say 5 years, have been looking for the optimal way to get our information into the homes of people. And we have really found, I think we finally found the answer. And unfortunately, it does require a little bit more in cost for postage, but it also takes less time to get it out the door, and it's a faster service. We're finding it's getting into people's hands probably three days faster than it used to do, and it is now being read by people that may not have read it before. So we're really excited by that. And as far as growth, that again is our personal services, if we can add our additional transportation. I did want to say, we are not asking for a capital request, but I do support the facilities department request to help us expand the senior center dining room. The nutrition program is growing, and we would like to be able to allow for more participants and the ability to access, and in it also the ability to access our outdoor space. In 2021, even with meal services being delivered or picked up for part of the year, we have served over 8,000 meals. That includes what we are currently back doing, which is in person. We also use our dining room for our monthly veterans breakfast, which is now overflowing into our program space. So that takes a little bit away from our program space once a month when we do have that program. That's where we are. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to talk to you.
Thank you so much. That was excellent. Board members, any questions? This time I'm going to start with Mr. Tedstone.
Mr. Nasrullah, I appreciate your coming to me first. I do not have any questions at this time.
Okay. Ms. Kramer.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you for what you are doing over there at the Senior Center. Some really amazing things in really challenging times. Great to see that you've been able to be flexible and find ways to reach out and also keep programs going. Are the programs back in person now, or are you still?
So we, not only did we pivot when we had to close, we've pivoted very quickly when we reopened. When the governor reopened at the end of May, we reopened. And we brought back week by week more and more programs. I would say we're definitely back with everything. Some of the programs we actually are able to offer both virtual and in person. And we're trying to keep that because we know during the winter months, sometimes it's harder for people to get there, but also we don't know, I don't want to say it. I think we want to make sure that we continue to have it, but it is nice to be able to offer programs to people who may not be able to get out.
Right. Right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your report and I appreciate what is happening over there for our seniors.
Great. Thank you.
Through the chair, it's a great report, Amy. I'm spending a lot more time at the senior center than I used to. And I'm seeing all this progress and it's a wonderful. And I have seen you on television too.
Oh.
And you offer so much information to people and the seniors with the books on exemptions and the outreach and all that. And I do been in about once a week lately for lunch. And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful communication and the programs are terrific. The cafe program is wonderful. And all the people I've met there work very, very, very hard and they're just so nice to the seniors when they come in that everybody feels quite at home. And that's due to your leadership, I think, a lot. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think we have a great team. It is a team. It's a team effort.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Ms. Ritterbush, any questions or comments?
I think I really have anything to add. I really appreciate the presentation and I think it all made sense. And I'm glad that you're able to keep some virtual things for people who want that or maybe just can't get out in the winter. And the dementia-friendly community is a great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Thanks.
Mr. Kamalo.
Amy, the board agrees that our senior services and center rock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elaine Lazarus, Assistant Town Manager, will speak to the Land Use Planning and Permitting Department.
Thank you.
Ms. Lazarus, you are up.
Thank you. The Land Use Department's goals this year include working toward an online permitting system, updating the department's strategic plan, and providing additional staff resources for the Conservation Commission and inspectional services. Additional funding for one of these goals, the staff resources, is a new item included in the FY23 budget request. On the next slide, we talk about a little bit about the 4 general service areas of the Land Use Department. centering around permitting, which is the issuance of building-related permits and code compliance for building and fire safety and zoning compliance and enforcement. And to that vein, this past year, the building division issued 1,299 permits for either residential dwellings or additions to residential dwellings, which was up 30% over the year before. So there's a lot going on in residential construction these days. Also in permitting, it's a center of permitting undertaken by several boards and committees, including the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, the Board of Appeals. And in the planning function, the staff prepares and implements short and long range plans, including the master plan and right now the open space and recreation plan, which is underway. And these planning processes include substantial community input, outreach, and participation. And without that, these plans can't be undertaken. So we appreciate the community's input. The third service area is land use, and the department is involved in community efforts regarding trail development and maintenance, land management, and growth management. And the fourth area of service is board and committee support. So inherent in the majority of the work that the department does is the department's support of several boards and committees, including the Planning Board, Conservation Commission, Board of Appeals, Open Space Preservation Commission, the Community Preservation Committee, Design Review Board, and many others. We spend a lot of time at public meetings. So the FY23 budget requests includes a new position, which would include additional professional support for the Conservation Commission, along with support for inspectional services and work on special projects. The position will allow for additional focus on land management, open space protection, and climate initiatives. It will allow for more environmental protection related work, including development monitoring, sustainability, and climate change. The new position will also include a risk management component through a concentration on inspections and permits that are jointly issued, inspected, and monitored by the building department and fire department. And a portion of the salary will be paid from building permit fees. As Jay mentioned with Parks and Rec, this department also has 2 current employees funded wholly by building permit fees, and the new position would be partially funded from those fees. And with that, there is no capital request, and the only new start is the new position. So any questions?
Thank you. No questions on my end. I just want to say that I'm glad to see that we're getting new hires in there. I think it makes sense to have some more help in there. Board members, any comments or questions? Mr. Stetson, I see you shaking your head no, so I'm not going to call on you.
I appreciate that.
Any, okay. Looks like everyone's all set. Thank you, Ms. Lazarus. That was excellent.
Thank you.
Mr. Kamalo.
Thank you, Elaine. Great work. We've all heard about the financial health of the town, why our human services are great. You may be wondering, how do we keep healthy? Sean McAuliffe, Health Services.
Thank you, Norman, and thank you, Chair. So through the Chair, the Health Department, or the Health Services Department, our service areas include permitting, regulatory compliance, and communicable disease management. And our task is really managing the town's risk, so the residents, municipality, and other businesses in town don't have to worry about risk. Our primary goals moving forward are digitalization, where we will be working with IT and kind of parallel with land use to improve our record keeping and permitting processes. With that, we'll be able to improve our cycle times for property review, business transactions, and in general, just be able to provide a much better service to the residents. And as we digitize more records and work towards digitizing our older records, what that will do it will help reduce the large footprint that we have, because we have a significant record keeping footprint now, at an offsite. So in general, this goal alone will drive savings in the amount of space we use. And again, it'll just provide a lot better service to the residents and businesses in the town. We are looking to continuously improve, the quantified baseline health of the community. We'll be working on expanding, our vaccination rates. We'll be working with the Mass DPH to work to improve our published metrics. We'll be working on providing systems to communicate those metrics out to the public, morbidity, mortality review, analysis, and this work will directly support the programming that Dawn's group at Youth and Family Services is doing, and will parallel nicely with the work that Amy and her group are working towards as they move forward to obtaining the age and dementia friendly certification. Lastly, and actually, let me just cycle back there. One of the other things that, I need to note is that we're one of the few communities in the Commonwealth that's been approved to operate a community EMS program. And what we look to do over, the next few years is improve this service, and it would just improve the awareness and build this program out so that we are, a representative of the fire department and health department will be going out providing homebound assistance when requested. And if we're doing our job well, we should reduce the number of ambulance runs and calls that just kind of what I would say, I don't want to say, but wasteful calls where there's a lot of work that the fire department and other public safety departments are called to do. And we believe that by expanding this community EMS program over the next several years, we'll be able to meet the needs of the residents, homebound residents, seniors in town. And in providing those services, which we can charge for, we'll be able to reduce the overall costs in other departments within the community. As far as permitting goes, we're working to expand and improve our permitting and health services. We have a whole host of regulatory requirements. And if you move to the next page, this is actually a 10-item list, which is a distillation of 11 pages of regulatory obligations that our department has. Over any given year, we have on average 187 regulatory and permitting responsibilities that we have to, or that we commit to the Mass Department of Public Health, the Mass Department of Environmental Protection, and other regulatory agencies. So we have a wide range of oversight, again, permitting, regulatory assistance, regulatory interpretation, and then disease protection, prevention, assisting, youth and family services, the school department with tobacco and vaping and drug use reduction, emergency planning, environmental assessment, et cetera. Moving on to the next page, our impact, we're asking for an increase in $9,200 that will go into our medical services line. the thought here is that, we're going to be providing, actually into the near future as COVID becomes an endemic disease, not knowing what other, diseases might lurk out there. And then our commitment to provide additional vaccination services, supporting both the school department and, the seniors in the town. We're looking to purchase, vaccine supplies so that we can expand our services, which are going to be part of this community EMS program. But all of this work, all of the vaccination work, the testing services will be able to provide COVID testing, flu testing, RSV testing. All of this work is reimbursable. So what we've discussed with the board and the leadership is that what we envision is being able to return money back to the town, and more importantly, we'll be able to self-fund a lot of the work that the per diem nurses would be doing, and it would cover the expenses, the ancillary expenses related to Band-Aid purchases, again, vaccine purchases, et cetera. So we believe that we'll be creating a nice little enterprise, which will, in theory, reduce the overall costs in the department. And then depending on how this evolves, we might actually be able to start looking at a reduction in our overall medical services line item. If we go to the next page, we see the $23,000, $272 change. That is the differential between Casey's salary and Simone's salary. So we incurred that over the year, and now we're carrying it through to this next year. And then the other change is in it'd be the $9,200 in our medical services line. We did increase our training budget by $1,000. And I don't know if that got carried through onto this table, but all Kelechi, myself, and Simone have a significant number of certifications that we have to upkeep in order to maintain our vaccination clinic status, be it enabled to permit and oversee the installation of septic system wells, et cetera. So we were just looking with 3 of us now in the department. We thought it time to add a little money to that line item. That said, I think as a department, we've done a fantastic job at, basically funding all of our COVID response, and that, as we move forward with a full-time nurse, move outside of the pandemic, we'll see quite a significant beneficial impact to the overall health in the community, and our ability to support the senior services and youth and family goals. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Obviously, in this pandemic, we've seen everything that you've been able to rise to the occasion for, and appreciate the presentation. Board members, any questions or comments?
I'm good, Mr. Nasrullah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right.
I'm sorry, I just throwing in and saying how much we appreciate the work that you all are doing under high pressure circumstances and staying steady. So kudos to the department.
Thank you. I will add that I had a conversation just yesterday on bringing in grant opportunities into the town to support, mental health and just a reintroduction to a post-COVID world. So I think, we're going to be working closely with Youth and Family Services to really help the community, step out of this 2-year ordeal.
That's really good to hear and really important.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Sean. Appreciate it. Mr. Kamalu.
Yes, next is Nancy Milone Hill, who will make the first part of the library presentation. I will also assist here in discussing the new stats for that department. Nancy.
Thank you, Norman. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you this evening about the library's activities and our fiscal year 23 budget request. The library's mission is to inspire exploration, discovery, and engagement as we enrich and strengthen the social network of our diverse community. Last fiscal year, along with others from the community, we worked on a long-range service plan that will take us from fiscal year 22 through fiscal year 27. An action plan was created for fiscal year 22 and placed on file with the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. These goals and objectives are in alignment with the Select Board's commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. In the coming year, some of the things that we hope to accomplish include begin offering a library of things, which will allow Hopkinton residents to circulate non-traditional library items like hotspots, sewing machines, and ukuleles. Circulation of these items will make it possible for all Hopkinton residents to learn a new skill or to connect to the world beyond, regardless of financial limitations. Create a maker space where taxpayers can utilize machines to create, such as the new 3D printer that we've purchased. Continue and expand upon our partnership with the Hopkinton Senior Center to make our town more age and dementia friendly by offering more memory cafes, and to begin offering memory kits that caregivers can check out and use with their family members at home. Conduct a diversity audit of our collection. Plan and offer more programs for adults, children, and teens that both foster lifelong learning and help us to become more culturally aware, and to become more responsive to the community desire for further weekend hours. In order to achieve these goals, the FY23 budget request represents an 8.715% increase over our fiscal year 22 budget. This includes 6 full-time and 8 part-time staff members. It also includes 10 substitutes whose job it is to fill in on our busy circulation and children's room desks. The requested amount brings us back to pre-pandemic staffing levels. It also raises 3 senior library associates from 19 hours per week to 30 hours per week. An increase of $19,100 is also included in this budget request for books and processing. The Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners requires each community to spend a certain amount, a certain percentage of their municipal appropriation on books and materials. For Hopkinton, that percentage is 15%. Without doing so, we run the risk of not being certified in any given budget year. The library currently makes up roughly $40,000 difference between what the town gives us to spend on materials and what we're required to spend by using trust and gift funds. While it's been possible to do this in the past, as our municipal appropriation grows higher, these funds will be unable to keep pace. The increase in this line item for fiscal year 23 will bring us closer to being able to continue to do so. That's it from my portion of this presentation. Thank you again for being able to speak with you this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In addition to the 8.715% increase to the overall library budget, we will be asking for an additional $260,000 to fund for staffing positions. As has been explained in the past weeks, to reiterate, this will allow the library to address growth, the increased needs that are identified in the strategic plan, as well as responding specifically to the community's request for expanded library service hours. And then finally, this funding will allow us to bring efficiencies to the management of the organization. Broadly speaking, the positions would be supervisors that will be positioned to assist 3 departments specifically, or rather 3 divisions specifically. Reference information technician, young adults and children services, circulation services, and then an assistant director. Again, the funding is to address growth, expanded needs, as well as bringing efficiencies to the service delivery in the library department.
Thank you both. That was excellent. And I know that you're accomplishing quite a bit with very, very short staffed. So I understand. Board members, any questions or comments? Mr. Tedstone.
All set here, sir.
All right. Seems like, oh, Ms. Kramer?
Yeah, so Mr. Kamala, would you say that again, that the library is requesting an 8-point-something% increase and an additional $200 and some odd thousand for staffing? Is that right?
In fact, I will tend to Ben for that in 1 second. What I was explaining is that in addition to the increases that are defined in the 8.715 increase, there are additions of 4 positions. And Ben, if you're still here, do you mind clarifying whether the 260 is in the 8.715% increase or is above?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that it's above, and I'm pulling it up right now. It's above, so it would be an increase for the baseline of 584,000 in staffing from last year.
So I'm not quite sure why we broke it out that way, but what is the percentage increase, including all of that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, 50%.
50%. Okay. Okay. So on the surface, I totally support the library, getting back up to pre-pandemic staffing. I don't know if other people knew that this was coming, but this is a bit of a surprise to me. And I think that it's something we probably need to talk about and understand better how we are going to accommodate that. Not saying we won't or don't want to. I just am not sure how it fits in the overall budget conversation.
Yes, very good comment. Well taken. We will be ready to socialize this proposal with the community. I think from the time I first talked about the budgets that were coming in from departments, I did send the indication that there will be a substantial increase in the library personnel budget. Though I do understand the specifics are just emerging now.
Yeah, it's a big bump, and also I'm new back to the board this year. So I'm not sure if there are, conversations that happened that, staffing was reduced pre-pandemic or what happened. But anyway, just to understand it more completely and more fully, I will say that the public library is one of those resources that is truly unique, available to everyone. Our public library has been truly innovative and expansive, and I look forward to seeing other ways that the library supports the community. I will also say, when I was newly married and had a lawn chair and a milk crate in my new condo, you know how it is. The library where we lived in Chelmsford at the time, North Chelmsford, and they loaned wall art, and I borrowed wall art for my home, and totally appreciate the opportunity for people to borrow a lot of different things that I'm really tickled by the innovations and so forth. But I do think we have to have a bigger conversation about that increase and that impact. I look forward to that.
Yeah, thank you. And as we're thinking about this, the context is the last perhaps 3-4 years would have been the appropriate time for the library to add its staffing, because at that time, remember, through the generosity of this community, the foundation was able to pay for the debt service for the library, providing huge relief in the budget. Unfortunately, the last 3 years, there were other more pressing needs that the town had to attend to. So the relief that was afforded to the community by the contributions from the foundation were directed at growing other town services. And we believe, as we will show in the budget presentation by the town manager next week, that there is a plan as to how the town will afford bringing these 4 new positions into the organization.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for that. And I look forward to that whole big picture presentation, because I think that's really important, and more detail on this and other departments that are seeing bigger increases. It'll be, I think it'll be important to understand the why the requests are coming forward this year.
Absolutely. Thank you both. I think it's an excellent presentation. I'm excited to see all the new services. The Library of Things and the Makers area sounds very interesting. So excited to see that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I believe that is all of our budget updates.
Almost.
We have one more?
Almost, Mr. Chair.
Okay, go for it, Mr. Khumalo.
Yeah, very quickly, town manager's presentation. Again, as was reported at the all hands meeting, our 3 goals are to develop a repeatable strategic planning process for the community, facilitate aspirations of the renewed finance team. As we now have a fully staffed finance team, and this is especially significant given the fact that we have reached the point where we now need to address what happens when new growth goes away, as well as addressing some of the COVID-19 impacts on the community. And then finally, supporting employee happiness. Next, I included in the packet the budget service areas for the department, capturing the executive role of both the town manager's office as well as the select board, ranging from streamlined policy making processes and compliance through the economic vibrancy and sustainability of the community. In terms of new stats, need to point out a couple for your attention. You may recall that there is a position in the town manager's office that we have not filled for several years. This is the position that was occupied previously by Jamie Helen. given the state of the hiring sector, we are asking for an additional $14,000 to the base salary of this position, which is $61,000. And then additionally, as we learned over the last 2 years, community engagement is very important for this community. And we are asking for $60,000 to allow us to support our community engagement processes. We are not asking for any capital articles. And then in addition, in terms of the legal budget, we're asking for an increase of $3,500, basically to address the two cable license renewal processes that we're going through. And then the $60,000 that I mentioned earlier is in relation or is under the other general government budget. And then employee benefits, we're looking at a $1.1 million increase. Veteran services level funded, and our beautiful townwide celebrations, our budget is remaining at $30,000.
Thank you, Mr. Khumalo. Board members, any questions for town manager?
I did. Is it two positions that you say? Is it we have a vacant position and then you're adding another one? Is that what?
No.
No.
We have one vacancy to fill.
Okay.
The $60,000 would be in the form of services provided to the community.
And then the 14,000
is added to the existing 61,000 that has remained unfilled.
Okay. So, but the second, sorry, so it's not two positions though?
It's not two positions.
Is it an outside service, the public relations?
Yeah, the public relations would be a combination of outside services and anything else that the town can do internally.
Okay. So would the vacant position, would that work on economic development?
It amongst other things, yes.
Amongst other things, okay. So I think that would be welcomed, especially as things are changing business-wise in the town after the pandemic and also with the Main Street corridor. So, okay, thank you.
That's it. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Khumalo.
Thank you.
So,
I just thought of a question. I'm sorry, through the chair. Notice here you had boat excise tax. We did boat excise tax for a while. Only what happened was it wasn't cost effective because it's the place it's moored, not where the owner lives. And in Hopkinton, we don't have a huge number of boats. A lot of people in Hopkinton own boats, but they have to pay their tax from the town that the boat is moored in and not the town that the boat is used in. And we wound up sending out a ton of boat excise tax bills and abating a ton. And only getting a small amount of money from the number of boats that are in town. So I don't know what that means, boat excise tax. But we didn't make much money at all on it because we just had the expenditures of sending them all out and they weren't cost effective. And then doing statements and, for those that have them down the Cape and on the North Shore and everywhere else. At that time, it wasn't cost effective. Now it may be now, but it wasn't then. So I just want to look at that.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Jo. We've simply listed this as a topic for consideration, and your feedback is very helpful.
Well, the list of boats that we got from the registry, they didn't take them out. They didn't take out the boats that are moored someplace else, and so we get a huge list of boats. We send out a huge amount of bills. And most of them we have to abate because they're moored on the Cape or moored at Hampton Beach, someplace else. So I just want to check and make sure that from the registry's list, there's enough to make it cost effective, because it really wasn't then.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, Mary Jo is referring to the list of potential town meeting articles.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was.
Well, I think that's one of our next topic on the agenda.
Okay.
All right. So moving forward, the board will now review its own town meeting articles and consider voting to submit articles into the 2022 annual town meeting warrant. In the board's packet, there's a list of potential articles to be sponsored by the board and the town manager. So we have non-recurring articles. Hold on a moment.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, perhaps the way to proceed is that this is a list that we have shared with the board, I think the last 2 or 3 meetings. Is there anything under the non-recurring articles that the board would like to discuss?
So I'm going to open this up to the board. Are there any articles that that would like to discuss? Okay, seeing no discussion.
I just did mine, so.
Okay. Thank you, Mary Jo. I think that was actually very helpful. It's that's something that I hadn't even considered. So, okay, well, go ahead, Mr. Conlon.
Yes, and then, Mr. Chair, we provided recurring articles. These are articles that are standard and routine and always appear on the town meeting warrant.
Okay.
Anything that the board has any questions on?
I don't have any on those, but through the chair, there's usually an article too about the trustees for the school funds. Is that somebody else submits that article at the end? It's usually at the very last article. I just happened to notice that one of the people that's the trustees of the school fund doesn't live in Hopkinton anymore. So I'm gonna guess we need to appoint a new person.
Correct. Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Amy, for pointing that out. We will add that to the list of recurring articles.
Okay, so that is sponsored by town manager or select board?
I'll have to check in the past. It could be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then I'm going to request a motion to submit the following, the preceding articles into the 2022 annual town meeting warrant.
Can I just ask a question? I know I saw them and I'm having a hard time finding the folder that they were in, but they're not part of the meeting packet, or are they? I just for the public's ability to see the information.
Yeah.
They are. It's on
They are.
page 55, 56 of the packet.
Really, truly going to have to learn how to get through the packet better.
I think it's not, it's before the budget presentation, I think.
Yeah, okay, so it's a little out of order.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. I knew I had seen them, I just couldn't find them in the moment.
Just to add to what Muriel said, we've got some really great budget presentations tonight and that are also at our January 11th meeting. And it would be good if those were on the town website in the town meeting folder where we put, I think you already put out the budget message and the calendar, things like that. But these were really good slide presentations that will answer a lot of people's questions.
I agree.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to request a motion to submit the preceding articles into the 2022 annual town meeting warrant. Do I need to list them all?
We just say listed as listed in the packet.
Yes, submitted in the packet, including the addition of the article regarding the trustees of the school funds.
I would make that motion.
Is okay. Mr. Kamal, is that motion in order? Do we need to list everything out?
No, it's in order.
Okay. Does anyone want to second that?
I do have a question. What about the capital articles?
The capital articles, for the most part, have their own individual sponsors and not the select board or the town manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot, but this is our last chance. This is our last meeting.
I just
before
wanted to-
February 1. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Do you have any other comments or questions?
I don't
Or
think I do.
discussion? Okay, then let's take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush,
Ritterbush, yes.
Brenda Tedstone,
Headstone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere,
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Meryl Kramer,
Meryl Kramer, yes.
and Irfan Asrul is a yes. Okay, so moving forward, the town manager report, Mr. Khumalo.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, with your permission, may I also invite Lynn to join me for this presentation?
Sure. Lynn, are you here? There she is.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the presentation or the remarks tonight are twofold. One, just to bring you up to speed in terms of where our discussions are with Lichen regarding their TIF, their proposed TIF agreement. And then secondly, also to share with the public that the board will be considering this matter substantively at your next meeting next Tuesday. In terms of our discussions so far, which have included town representatives, representatives from Lichen and the property owner, I would characterize them as progressing smoothly and now nearing conclusion. We are hoping that we will be presenting a very comprehensive draft to the select board at your meeting next week. And I felt that it would be necessary also to hear directly from Lichen's representatives what and how they feel about the discussions so far.
Lynn, I believe that's you.
Okay. Yes. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Lynn Tokarczyk. I am the Government Tax Incentives Consultant for Lichen Bioscience. And I'm actually here this evening with the Lichen team, including Patrick Lucy, who you've met before, who's the president and CEO, Keith McCormick, CFO, Tony Rotuno, who's the founder and executive vice president of the board of directors, and Harold Nahigian, who's the property owner. So I'd really like to thank everyone for inviting us here tonight to the select board, and really to thank Norman Khumalo for his leadership. The team, the Lichen team, is very, very grateful for your leadership in working with your TIP team. And we do feel, and we are very pleased with the productive discussions and appreciate all of your efforts, to you and the TIP team, for your time, efforts. I know this is moving very quickly, but again, the Lichen team does appreciate all of the movement and working on an expedited timeline. So thank you so much. And it's really great to be back here. I actually worked on the first Lichen TIF project at 97 South Street, and it's great to see so many familiar faces this evening as well. So we're very pleased, and congratulations to all of you. I think one of the reasons also is that Lichen is very interested in Hopkinton is because of its pro-business environment. And again, congratulations on all of your efforts and what you've been doing in the town of Hopkinton. I live close by, so it's great to see all the amenities. You know, hopefully everything will be opening up very quickly once the pandemic is a little more behind us. But again, the Lichen team is very appreciative, and we do have, as I mentioned, the representatives here this evening. So we look forward to continuing productive discussions and hopefully reaching mutual terms to bring it before you next week, as the town manager indicated. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and again, if Mr. Chair, if it's okay, Lynn, in summary, our understanding is that if these discussions are concluded successfully, Lichen will be expanding here in Hopkinton.
That is the proposed plan. You know, back in 2000, we were here before you back in 2019, and that project turned into a reality. They do have a TIF. They've met their TIF obligations. And so this is a proposed project which is a substantial project, an estimated $90 million investment with new jobs. They're very involved with the community. They've embedded themselves already with so many different programs and organizations here in the town of Hopkinton. And obviously the economic impact is quite substantial. So again, yes, that is the proposed plan, in hoping that mutual TIF terms can be reached, bringing it to the select board next week with the intent then to bring it to town meeting in May. And then of course, the final vote would be by the state, the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, for their certification. So thank you again.
Thank you. I love the idea of you expanding here and calling Hopkinton home.
Thank you. I love knowing that when they had the last TIF, that they completed it just the way it was supposed to be, if not a little early. And so many, we've lost a couple of that were in the TIF that couldn't make their obligations in the past. So this is a company that we know has a good record, that it has made its obligations.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kamalo.
That's it.
All right. Well,
I just want to offer Lynn our condolences on the passing of her mother.
Thank you so much. That's very kind and very comforting. Thank you.
very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Kamalo, was there a piece of your town manager report where we were going to designate a a records access officer?
Yes, that's the second item where we are asking the board to consider designating Michelle Maddock as the public records officer for the police department.
Is this a new position? This is just a new role for her?
Yes, this will be a new role for her. I have really enjoyed working alongside Michelle. She has been a great addition to our team and is stepping forth to help the police department in this very, very important role.
Can you explain the role through you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, under the public records law in Massachusetts, the towns have an obligation to respond constructively, timely, and efficiently. And in the police department, we receive requests for records that are public almost on a daily basis. When I spoke with the administrative manager who actually had this role until recently, she did explain to me that this really takes up almost perhaps 10 to 15% of her weekly hours. And Michelle is stepping forth to help. Again, allowing us to be responsive, transparent, and be efficient in responding to public record requests.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have one more question. Was this a position that was publicly advertised?
No, and here's why. We had Anne-Marie, doing the work. However, she has since left, and we really need to fill this because the requests are coming in fast and furious. We want to fill it in temporarily, and then we are advertising. We have already advertised the replacement for Anne-Marie full-time.
So if I could, through the chair, are we just designating, this is something that has to be officially designated, but the schools have a record officer, the town clerk is a record officer, and the police need one too? Are we just designating an existing employee to do this function? Is that for now?
That's what we're doing temporarily. We want to do this temporarily so that we're able to respond to the requests.
Got
and if the chief is still here, he can speak to the volume. My understanding is that this is really time consuming. Again, in terms of
I have no doubt.
In terms of filling the in terms of filling the actual positions, yes, we've complied. We've advertised. We will be hiring somebody to do that. In the meantime, we're bringing in an existing employee to come and help.
So she's really more of an acting public records officer.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for the town manager? No. All right, then I'm going to request a motion to designate Michelle Murdoch as a as a records access officer for the Hopkinton Police Department.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable if we made the motion that it was acting until the position is formally filled after being advertised.
I had a question about that though, because I guess from my putting on my working hat, sometimes the person who's the public records officer is on vacation and you need another employee who also could be designated as that to fill in that role, I believe. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you go about sifting through the records to give someone what is public record? I mean, her job as a reporter, I think it's kind of a conflict. Maybe not, but
I don't the reporter anymore.
Yeah, she's not a reporter.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's my understanding again. The board is designating a town official to be the public records officer for the police department, whilst we look for a full-time position, a person to replace Anne-Marie.
So would a motion with a friendly amendment that Michelle Murdoch is being designated as a records access officer temporarily until a full-time position can be hired?
I don't think we need that. I don't think we need that friendly amendment.
Yeah, because when the new person comes in, they will need to be designated officially through the same process.
Gotcha. Okay. So we have a motion that's been seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. We'll take a roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush?
Ritterbush, yes.
Brendan Tedstone?
Tedstone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere?
Yes.
And Muriel Kramer?
Bill Kramer, no.
And Irfan Asrul is a yes.
Just for the record, I really think we need to hold ourselves to the standard of publicly posting all positions every time.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have posted it. Mr. Mo said that it's been posted. It just hasn't been filled.
Correct. And then we did not make it. We did not make this temporary pending the hire.
But I don't think she's getting additional. There's no additional salary, right? She's being designated to do this duty under her current position. Is that right? Maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Yeah. Here's the distinction. The time that she spends doing this work, that time will be paid for out of the police department versus the town manager's office or the engineering services department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So But Mr. Kamalo, just for clarity, we do advertise every job that we need to advertise, right? That I don't like to have people think that we're doing anything backdoor or not behind the books, or even that Michelle Murdoch would even be part of something that wasn't 100% by the book.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We can keep moving forward. Liaison reports and board invites. Anyone have a liaison reports?
Not me.
We did get an invitation to the Hopkinton Chinese American Association's Lunar New Year celebration on the 5th of February. I was thinking at least one of it, they're requesting that somebody from the select board record a video of Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Video. So should we pick someone to do that?
Sure. I mean, does anybody want to do the video?
Like, I don't mind doing it. I did it last year, but I just wanted to put it out there for everyone. Or I'd be happy to.
My
do it.
opinion, I think you're the best equipped to do that. So I'd be happy to let you do it again.
Okay, so I will take that task on.
All right. Anyone else?
Amy. I'm hoping that with the budget presentation overall, we hear explicitly what the message was, what the increase was that we mandated, and how all the budgets fall, so we can have that as a discussion point, or just transparency point that we see that in the presentation. And then I had a question about, is this future agenda items as well, or Irfan?
No, this is liaison.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
All right. And I just wanted to throw in last Thursday, I believe, the Trails Committee presented had a presentation at the Upper Charles Trail Committee. It was interesting. Moving on, future board agenda items, Miss Kramer.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention the trails. So I don't know if we need to have it on the agenda or some explanation of our role in the process. I just know that the presentations and the planning is generating a lot of interest, and I think that I want to take an opportunity for us to be fully informed and the public to be fully informed what are the next steps, and what our role is explicitly in those next steps. So if we could have a discussion soon, or know what is coming forth and when, that would be helpful.
I think that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so we can talk about like how we do it and how it gets done and who's going to be here.
Just making sure we're 100% transparent on what the process is in front of us.
Yeah.
So that the public is fully informed, and we're fully informed for that matter. I want to make sure I understand it as well. Sure. And I had one more request for an agenda item. There is a Senate and House bill that is proposing a temporary moratorium on new construction for jails and prisons in the state. And I would like to have a conversation on potentially sending a letter of support for that legislation.
Okay, thank you. Any other agenda items? No, okay. And Amy, floor is yours.
All right, I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, it's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, Amy Ritterbush.
Ritterbush, yes.
Brandon Deadstone.
Deadstone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere.
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Muriel Kramer.
Muriel Kramer, yes.
And Irfan Nasrallah is a yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.